The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Alan, a couple of voices out there. So is yours. You're doing the right thing, Mark. You know that.
Well, I appreciate it. It's fun to have you here. I'm glad to have you on the daytime program, and I apologize really to my listeners for not bringing you here sooner. But we wanted to let the program get some footing before we bring in the monsters. And you're, of course,
I ain't no monster.
You're the monster voice out there, Alan. When I opened up the show, I saw this Brady campaign email literally within 5 minutes of going to airtime, and it made me sick to my stomach. These people will insert themselves into anything, Alan, to remain relevant in today's news cycle.
And first of all, you got their name wrong. It's the Brady campaign for the promotion of gun violence. As soon as there's gun violence, they promote it. They use it to raise money. If there wasn't gun violence, they wouldn't have a job. And they're interested in taking guns away, not gun safety, not gun education. They do nothing for gun safety. I just got a mailer from them soliciting money, and they're the antithesis of what we need. They're the opposite. But a lot of people follow them because they're brain dead. And every time there's a tragedy, they dance in the blood, and they say, send us money, and they work on civil rights denial. They want to take guns away from everybody who didn't do anything, and it's illogical, but that's how they proceed. It defies credibility, and yet they have the support of the guy in the White House. It's amazing.
Does that shock you that they have the support of the occupant of the White House?
It used to. It used to shock me, but the person currently occupying the White House doesn't belong there in the first place, in my opinion. And I've been looking into that. It's a slight change of subject here, but the NBC issue, the natural-born citizen issue, have you looked at that at all?
I haven't paid much attention to it recently, no, I have to admit.
It's all over the place. The Constitution has a requirement on the office of the president, and it's called a natural-born citizen. And the founders put it there so that you couldn't have somebody with a divided loyalty to be commander-in-chief. They wanted somebody with 2 U.S. citizen parents born in the country to be the president, which was the best way to assure an undivided loyalty. At the time, your citizenship, your allegiance, now allegiance, came from soil, where you were born, or blood, your parents. So 2 citizen parents and born in the country and it's the only office with this requirement, was natural-born citizens, right there in Article 2. It's the only office in the entire country that has that requirement. And now we have people running like Rubio and Jindal, and there's 4 of them now who were born out of the country or have 2 parents who aren't citizens, every combination of foreign influence, and they're claiming to be qualified, but it makes you wonder. And
Alan, we're going to have to stop right there because that music means we need to take a break. Of course, you are no rookie to Armed American Radio's clock, that's for sure. You've opened up a can of worms with that topic, I can tell you that much. When we come back, we will continue with the great Alan Corwin from gunlaws.com. Check out his page 9 at gunlaws.com. Back with Alan Corwin right after this.
Right now, it's time for Armed American Radio's Daily Defense with Mark Walters.
Oh, yes, it is. Provocative opening segment. Sean and I were talking during the break. You know, that best radio that you never get to hear type of thing. And he says, I think we should go all Alex Jones today. And I said, nah, I don't know if we don't have enough time to go all Alex Jones, but it is a fascinating topic. Welcome to my guest, Alan Corwin. Alan, always a pleasure to have you here, man. See, you always open up this big Pandora's box. There was a big box over in the corner of the studio. It said Pandora, and you went over and opened it.
He climbed out of it.
I have those keys, and I want to clarify here so that there's no misunderstandings. It's Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution that says, no person except a natural-born citizen, et cetera, it's got age requirements and length of time in the United States, shall be eligible to the office of the President of the United States. And we have 3 candidates. Let me see here. Ted Cruz, born in Canada to an American mother and a Cuban father, Marco Rubio, born in Miami, but to two Cuban parents, communist Cuba, right? And Jindal, born in 1971 in Baton Rouge, to two Indian citizens with green cards. Now, at some point, you have to ask yourself, could you have, say, a British officer with an American wife who's living in Spain, have a child, and that person's eligible? At what point are you foreign enough that you're not eligible? And what I'm really getting to here is the government isn't following the Constitution. So when you ask, am I surprised that they're trying to pass laws that are infringements on our right to keep and bear arms? Well, they got a Department of Education at the federal level. There's no authority to have a Department of Education or an environmental department that was built in 1970 to reduce our dependency on foreign oil. It's a farce. There's no authority. And now the Office of the President has a strict requirement on it to be a natural-born citizen. What does that mean? Go back in history and look. If you Google it, you'll find all sorts of falderall that was written in contemporaneous time that says, well, it's okay, it might be okay, I think if you look at it this way, and maybe we pass something, and there's even a congressional research a bureau report that's a whitewash and says, yeah, if you got one toe in the water, then you're okay. But how about a communist North Korean parent? Would that be an undivided loyalty to be commander-in-chief? I don't know. We got a guy with two Cuban parents. Oh, they were escapees. If you look into their history, they weren't political prisoners. They came here for economic reasons. They wanted what America offers the world. So you got two Cuban parents. You're born out of the United States. Isn't there some requirement on the presidency? And if we don't have that level of constitutionality in our government, what can you expect from gun rights except that the front of your gun is supposed to defend you against this kind of tyrannical usurpation of power? And the entire Congress has acquiesced to this, because if they don't, they're all complicit in a tyrannical usurpation, and they're all guilty of, I dare not say it on the radio.
Well, you're bringing up the bigger picture. I actually spoke with Mike Flynn, who is running for the very conservative District 18 in Illinois, the open seat in that special election, which is being held tomorrow. And we talked at great length on this program last week and on last night's Monster Armed American Radio weekend show about the Constitution and what it means, and the difference between establishment Republicans and conservative Republicans, or true conservative Republicans. And you're kind of getting into that right now, because there's a fight, or at least the media wants to highlight that fight and that argument, between a true constitutional conservative, Alan, and the establishment. And the establishment, you're right, is derelict in its duties and responsibilities, is ignoring the usurpation of the Constitution by our current president right now. It is a problem, because now this does go back to gun rights, because we go all the way back to the nation's founding and the purpose and the meaning of the Second Amendment.
And we've lost sight of history. You know where the Confederate flag comes from? The Democrats.
Yep.
It's the Southern Democrats who were in favor of slavery. They made that flag. They're the reason. The Republican Party was founded to fight that.
Yep.
Abe Lincoln was the one who came out against it. The Democrats were the ones who founded the KKK and introduced the Jim Crow laws. The gun control laws come from the Democrats in the Civil War era, the post-Civil War era, right up until the present day, originally to disarm blacks. They still want to see the blacks disarmed, and the blacks leaders, by and large, are part of the Takings Coalition, and the whole disintegration of black culture to keep them under their thumb. Offer them goodies and put them on welfare so they get lousy food and lousy housing, and they vote for the Democrats. This is an atrocity.
Well,
Alan, Sean, go ahead.
Alan, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I've had a conversation with someone. See, the Democrat and progressive left will not admit that Nathan Bedford Forrest was the founder of the KKK and also a Southern Dixiecrat. And they're not going to admit that, because as long as they can make the Republicans look like the out to get minorities and don't care about minorities, it works in their favor.
And they do.
Well,
have
they also
control of the media.
guys, also one thing, they also have, and this is very powerful, but they have a media in their hip pocket
Yes,
capable of directing that narrative.
Very right.
So they don't have to do that
Very
right now, because that story, what do we say? It's not just the bias in what they print and tell you, it's the bias in what they leave out. And that is in their hip pocket, more dangerous than what they print. It is a very provocative conversation, but I think we're all in agreement here of the original racist roots
Yes.
of gun control, and I can point to them
Yes.
right here in the state of Georgia. In fact, just over the last 5 years, Alan, as you know well, with the passage of the Guns Everywhere bill and the removal of the racist origin public gathering laws to keep guns out of the hands of blacks gathering after the Civil War. Its racist roots are well documented, but the media will never tell you that.
And
Alan.
talk
That's why
about
we
things
love when
to
you're
leave
here.
out. I had this argument with Mensa the other day. There's a guy there who's a rabid, aggressive pacifist. That's always a trip, right? Real.
Was he brilliant?
He claims to be a statistician, but his statistics are off the wall. He says, we have more guns in America than anywhere, and that might be true, and we're proud of that, of course, because that's balance of power with us and the government. But he fails to mention we have more guns per capita than anybody. That's fine. But we have less murders per capita. We're number 90 on the chart for murders per capita. Way, 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 way down the global chart.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.